Welcome to Smalltalk Daily for Tuesday, November 17th, 2009. This morning I thought I'd go through Opentalk again with an emphasis on sending messages between two small applications on two different systems. Now in this case I'm going to run both images on one system to make it a little easier to show you what I'm doing, but it doesn't really matter. They could be on a remote system so long as the two can communicate through TCP/IP. Here I've got my local, which is the counter UI. I've got a little UI that'll just add a counter, and I've added a broker to it. And the way I've done that is in the initialize method. I've created a request broker, starting it on port 9500. I'm starting it, and then I'm exporting my entire self through this name server counter, and that's so that these two API methods, add something to the counter and subtract something to the counter, can go ahead and execute. Then I've created a class called local counter, which is going to run in the other image. And it likewise is going to start a broker, and it's going to start it on port 9501, and then it's going to get a remote object to the host localhost on the port that I'm running the counter UI on, and using that OID. That way, from the remote image, I can send messages to this local one. So let's go ahead and start this up by opening up the counter UI. And you'll notice I've got a little UI here, and no real way other than typing into this field to increase or decrement that. So let's bring this other image into the view, and I'm going to go ahead and create a local counter and inspect it. So let's go ahead and do that. So here I have this, and it's telling me that the broker is running over here to port on 9501, and the remote counter is going to server counter, which is that object, on port 9500. Now what I can do is I can do things like this: self add 1, which is one of the API methods I added here in the local, and then I can do subtract 1, and it'll bring it back. But I can also do stuff like this. I can grab the remote counter directly, remote counter, assuming I could spell it, and I can do something like add, let's say 20. Let's do that, and you notice this goes up by 20, and now let's change this to subtract, and we'll change that to 15. Do it, and there that goes across. So you can see the way this is working. I've got in here, I've got my handle remotely to this object, and I can send messages to it. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, there is an API, there's protocol for specifying which subset of messages that an object supports that you're allowed to send across the wire. So there's some level of security you can build into this. If you want to have just a narrow bit of the API present, you can do that as well. But this is really all there is to setting this up. The only other thing you need to worry about is, let's go back to the browser. When you close down a broker, you should make sure to stop it. And in the counter UI, I'm making sure that I do that in the release method, which is going to be run when I close the window. Over here in this guy, I'd have to physically send it. But that would not be the case in most applications. You'd have some way of having an event take place that kicked off that release, closed the broker, and shut everything down. So that's really all there is to it. Now you can send messages between two images on remote systems and have nice, simple interoperability. So that's about it for today. Until next time, have fun with Smalltalk.